So we have come to War Remnants Museum in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, a very popular spot. So let's see how much the ticket cost. So we are at the War Remnants Museum. So it costed me 40,000 Vietnamese dong, around 350 rupees. Let me tell you something. History isn't just written in books. It lives in places like this. Today we step inside one of the Saigon's most powerful and emotional landmarks, the War Remnants Museum. This is not just a collection of artifacts, but a window into the pain, resilience, and stories of a nation that survived decades of war. The War Remnants Museum was established in 1975, just shortly after the Vietnam War ended. It stands as a reminder of the impact of conflict and the importance of peace. As you can see, before even stepping inside, you are greeted with tanks, helicopters, and fighter jets, weapons once used on this very soil by the Americans mostly, I think. Let's go inside and check out some more interesting facts. Let's go and check out. First floor, you'll find photographs and documents that give context to the war from its beginning to its ends. Agent Orange Room, perhaps the most heartbreaking section, tells the story of Agent Orange, a chemical that left devastating effects on generations. Then there is a prison cells and torture instruments. Reconstructed prison cells and guillotines remind us of the harsh realities faced by prisoners. Then there are photo exhibits. International photojournalist works capture moments of courage, loss, and humanity amid chaos, and they all lost their lives. One section focuses on the global protest against the war. When you enter the first floor section, it shows how people from around the world, students, activists, even veterans, stood up and demanded peace. Another section highlights the role of war correspondents. Rare photos taken by international journalists capture the human side of the conflict, families torn apart, children displaced, and communities struggling to survive. On this floor, you also encounter the story of Agent Orange, a chemical sprayed during the war. The displays explain its devastating effect not only on the environment but also on generations of Vietnamese families who still suffer today. Like the war, about the war, have you studied about this before?
Oh, no. I have no idea.
Like this war was between the north part and the south part of Vietnam. The north and south. So the south part of Vietnam was supported by the US, and the north was being fight by the Vietnamese people. So at the end of the day, they defeated the south. The US lost the war against the Vietnam. Finally,
Oh, they lose.
yeah, they lose. The US lose the war because US is good at airstrikes and all, but not at the ground level. So the Vietnamese people, they through the tunnel, they have a lot of idea about.
Right.
So, a rally to support Vietnam's struggle against the US in Moscow, Soviet. So everybody was supporting Vietnam. Vietnam, not like the war between the US and Vietnam. So everybody came in to support the protest all over the globe. It's this museum is a very emotional place for Vietnamese people because they had struggled a lot to unify into one nation. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
From the Paris peace accord to the Great Spying Victory in 1975. So finally, Vietnam won the war against US and South Vietnam in 1975. They got independent and they formed one Vietnam. So this Ho Chi Minh City, 50 years of reconstruction, development, and integration. History is Battles of women on ending the war and restoring peace in supporting Vietnam. This was a very emotional moment for the Vietnamese people. Let's see. Yes, was the tank. ये टैंक वॉर के टाइम में यूज हुई वियतनामीज टैंक थे ये सब weapons box, soldiers shoes, and many soldiers lost their life. broken broken buildings and all. So this museum has total 3 floors. This is the ground. So we पहले floor में चलते हैं. First floor of the museum. The first floor of the War Remnants Museum takes you straight into the historical background of the Vietnam War. Here you'll find detailed timelines, official documents, and photographs that explain how the conflict began, how it escalated, and how it finally ended in 1975. The war began in 1955 and ended on 1975. This section traces Vietnam's struggle for independence, first against French colonial rule, then against American military involvement. You'll see maps, government statements, and original new clippings that show how the war was reported around the world. Indian anniversary lived in South Vietnam in the center of the photo. Shell. The history book. It's too emotional. This man killed, how he killed, he has given his own biography in 2001. You can read the brave of Mr. David Matthews. Bomb down the night of December and crashed on London's boat. This is the Agent Orange room. In this room, the most heartbreaking section, the story of Agent Orange, a chemical that left devastating effects on generations. This museum isn't just about war, it's about remembering the cost of conflict, honoring those who suffered, and carrying forward a message of peace. As you walk out of the War Remnants Museum, you don't just leave with knowledge, you carry a piece of history that reminds us all peace should never be taken for granted. As I reach the end of my walk through the War Remnant Museum, one thing is clear. This is not just a place filled with photos, weapons, and artifacts. It is a living reminder of the human cost of war. Every wall, every picture, every document tells a story. Stories of soldiers and civilians, stories of children who grew up too fast, stories of families who lost everything, and stories of resilience of how a nation rebuilt itself from unimaginable pain. What strikes me most is that the museum doesn't glorify war, it doesn't celebrate victory or defeat. Instead, it forces us to confront the reality of suffering and to think about the choices humanity makes in times of conflict. As I step outside, the bustling streets of Saigon feels even more alive. The contrast between the past and the present is powerful, and it leaves me with one lasting throughout. History may hurt, but it also teaches. And if we listen closely, it teaches us to value peace above all else. This is the Agent Orange room. In this room, the most heartbreaking section, the story of Agent Orange, a chemical that left devastating effects on generations. This museum isn't just about war, it's about remembering the cost of conflict, honoring those who suffered, and carrying forward a message of peace. As you walk out of the War Remnant Museum, you don't just leave with knowledge, you carry a piece of history that reminds us all peace should never be taken for granted.